Hermione looked at him as if he were crazy. She was stopped from asking the doctor to explain himself by Tonks running up to them.
The port key won't work, and I tried to apparate over here. That didn't work either, Doctor, she informed him.
Suddenly remembering the order of the Phoenix coin she carried, she pulled it out and tried to contact Mad-Eye. She shoved the coin back into the pocket of her robe in disgust when it refused to work as well.
The Dementors are blocking our escape and magical communications, she spat.
Aiming her wand at the cloud, she yelled,
Expecto Patronum!
An immense, four-legged creature, vaguely reminiscent of a werewolf, shot into the cloud of Dementors. The silvery construct was swallowed up almost instantly by the black, evil swarm.
At least we know the rest of our magic works,
she sighed.
Although I doubt even Harry can produce a Patronus strong enough to drive away all of those soul-suckers,
she said sadly. Hermione watched Tonks' Patronus all the way until it was overwhelmed. She looked back at the pink-haired Auror curiously.
I thought your Patronus was a chameleon,
she stated.
Sometimes a person's Patronus can change, but it only happens when that person falls in love with all their heart with the one person they're meant to be with,
Tonks replied, blushing slightly. Hermione smiled knowingly, grateful her friend had found her soulmate. The doctor stepped back into the stone circle. Any idea how these Dementors are doing this? He asked the group.
My guess is that the Dementors are willing any form of magical movement to be stopped, but that would mean most of them would have to be concentrating on nothing else,
Hermione speculated.
Of course, most of the Dementors still leaves a couple hundred to wear us down and then devour our souls,
she complained. She knew exactly how hopeless her chances were and looked at the doctor. Knowing she might never get another chance, she took in a deep breath to gather her courage. She stepped forward and took the doctor's hand.
Doctor, if we make it out of here, will you be my date for the Halloween dance?
She requested quickly. The doctor squeezed her hand, surprised, but flattered by her attentions. I would be honored, Miss Granger, he replied solemnly. When she started to pull her hand away, the doctor squeezed even harder. I mean it, Hermione. I can't imagine anyone I would rather go to the dance with, he told her before letting go. Tonks sighed in relief while watching the doctor and Hermione. She had been running interference with the entire female staff, save Professor McGonagall, in an effort to allow Hermione to be the first one to ask the doctor. Hermione's affection for the doctor made his protective instincts kick in even more. A frown darkened his face as a plan started to take form in his mind. Tonks, how long would the Dementors have to be distracted to get everybody out of here using the port key? He demanded. Tonks looked back at the sign with the Hogwarts symbol written on it.
Once I deactivate the safety spell on it, it can transport as many people as can touch it. I'm guessing about 10 people can touch it at a time. All told, giving a 30-second reset time, it would take about 5 minutes, I suppose,
Tonks replied. I don't see how the 5 of us can distract those things long enough for everyone to escape, Ron complained. Besides, once the first group leaves, the Dementors will know something is up and start focusing again, he pointed out. We're screwed, he said bluntly. You're absolutely right, Ronald. The 5 of us could never distract all of them long enough, the doctor agreed. But perhaps I can do it by myself, he thought. The doctor had recognized the Dementors as soon as he saw them. He knew they were alien and where they had come from. He also knew that they were one of the few species which could kill a Time Lord permanently, with no hope of regeneration. The doctor had a sad look in his eyes as he offered his hand to Tonks. It's been a pleasure meeting you, Auror Tonks, he told her. Tonks shook his hand, thinking the doctor had given up. Her face fell as hope left her. The doctor turned to face Ron and offered his hand to him. Never let anybody give you a hard time about your hair, Ron. One of my best friends has hair just like yours. Not to mention the fact that I've always wanted to be a ginger, he joked. Ron shook his hand, not knowing what to say. The doctor offered his hand to Harry. I know what it feels like to be the chosen one. Never forget there are people who care for you, and draw your strength from them, he said wisely. I'll try and remember that, Harry replied, shaking the doctor's hand. He pointed his wand over the other man's shoulder and shouted, Expecto Patronum! Driving away a Dementor that had broken off from the swarm to try and be the first one fed. The doctor only spared a glance at the retreating Dementor before focusing his attention on Hermione. Instead of offering to shake her hand, the doctor reached up to brush her cheek gently. Hermione, all I can tell you is, he started to say, looking for the right words. just be brilliant, as you always are?" he suggested. Before she could react, the doctor leaned forward and gave her an ever-so-brief kiss on the lips. They both felt the jolt that comes from a first kiss. While she was recovering, the doctor put both hands on her shoulders and shoved her to the ground, so she wouldn't be able to stop him as he turned to face the outside of the circle. He spotted the fallen stone he was looking for and dashed towards it, muttering, "Never thought I'd get to do this again."
Doctor!
Tonks screamed after him. She tried to go after him and drag him back to safety, but was stopped by Ron and Harry. "He has a plan, I think," Harry told her. "Let him try," he ordered. Hermione sat where the doctor had pushed her, her hand raised to her lips.
Be brilliant. Be brilliant,
she repeated over and over. Ron looked down at Hermione and sighed. He bent down and took her other hand while she kept repeating those two words. "Harry, looks like Hermione's broken," he informed his best friend. Harry tore his eyes away from the doctor and looked at Hermione. "I hope he knows what he's doing," he prayed. The doctor scampered up onto the fallen stone and switched his sonic screwdriver to broadcast mode. "Hello? Hello? Is this thing on?" His voice boomed and echoed around Stonehenge. Judging from the shocked looks coming from the students, he decided it was working. The doctor looked skyward while holding the sonic screwdriver in front of his face. "May I have your attention, please?" "Yes, I mean you up there," he started. "We need to have a talk, and I'm fairly certain you'll want to hear what I have to say," he told the Dementors. A few of the figures dressed in black rags broke off from the main group and started to float towards him. "Why should we listen to a madman on a rock? Glad you asked," the doctor continued. "You see, unlike everyone else here, I know what you truly are and where you came from," he said calmly. More of the Dementors broke off and started in his direction, curious as to what the mortal had to say. "He could be bluffing, you say? Well, that is a good possibility. But I'm not. How about we go over some things and prove it," he offered. The doctor looked over at Stonehenge proper and saw his friends were safely far enough away. He looked back up at the Dementors. "Let's see, where should I start?" he asked rhetorically. "You aren't native to this planet. In fact, you were spawned a very, very long way from here," he told them. "You are the offspring of the horrible creature known as the Nightmare Child," he said, proving he knew their origins. About half of the Dementors broke free from the swarm to move towards the doctor, with all of the speed and crushing power of a glacier. "How do I know this, you ask? Again, another good question," he stated. "I was there when dear old Papa birthed you in the instant before he was cast into the void and obliterated. I'm the only being in the universe that witnessed that particular event," he explained. "You see, I was the one that forced the Nightmare Child into non-existence and wiped its disgusting form from reality," he called out. The majority of the Dementors redirected their attention to the doctor, allowing Tonks the opening she needed to apparate to the portkey and remove the safety spell. As soon as she was done, she ordered the first group of students to touch the portkey and leave. The doctor was silent for a moment while he let his words sink in. "I'm the one who stopped the Nightmare Child, and the could-have-been king and his army of mean wiles and never-words," he went on. The Dementors let loose with a terrifying shriek that made fingernails on a chalkboard pleasant in comparison. "I'm fairly certain you know who I am. But just in case," he assured the Dementors. He raised his screwdriver defiantly towards the sky and shouted at the top of his lungs, "I am the Doctor!" He glared at the advancing cloud of evil with all of the authority and power that was due him as the last of the Time Lords. "And you lot have come to the wrong planet," he added in a softer but bone-chilling tone. The Dementors all shrieked as one and dove towards the doctor, who jumped off the fallen stone. He ran in the opposite direction of the students, drawing the creatures away. Hermione snapped out of her trace with a final,
Be brilliant. Be brilliant.
She grabbed Ron's arm and pointed his wand at the swarm of Dementors chasing the doctor.
Try to cover him as best you can,
she ordered. Ron nodded and sent Patronus after Patronus above the doctor's head in an attempt to buy him some time. Harry was about to join Ron, but Hermione forced his arm down.
No, you have the strongest Patronus of anyone I know. We need it here,
she commanded. Harry couldn't believe his ears, but he knew she was right. But he still couldn't believe Hermione didn't want to help the doctor in his final moments. Hermione looked around the ring of upright stones, doing quick calculations in her head. She dragged Harry to a spot near the opening of the circle.
I need you to cast your Patronus at that stone there,
she said, pointing with her hand. Why? What will that accomplish? Harry questioned.
You heard the doctor. These stones act as multi-waveform resonator and amplifiers.
Hermione reminded Harry. She saw the blank look on Harry's face.
Just do it!
She ordered. Harry pointed his wand at the stone and shouted, Expecto Patronum! A silvery stag leapt out of his wand and ran into the stone, only to disappear. Hermione's heart sank, thinking she had jumped to the wrong conclusion. Suddenly, the stag ran out of the stone and into the next one in the circle. The wait until it reappeared was shorter and shorter as it went from stone to stone. By the time the stag returned to the original stone, it was moving so fast it was only a blur. Soon, it was moving so fast there was a continuous ring of light connecting the standing stones. As the stones began to glow with the silvery light of Harry's Patronus, beams of silver-colored light lanced out from each of the stones to meet in the air 100 meters above them. Where the light beams met, a swirling ball of energy formed. The beams shut off, and the standing stones went back to normal as a 3-story tall stag stepped out of the energy ball. The stag reared up on its hind legs and then charged the swarm of Dementors. The doctor had managed to run quite a ways before he stepped wrong on the uneven train and fell to the ground. He was knocked onto his back by a Dementor while others lined up to feed off of him. Hermione and the rest of the people back at Stonehenge could hear his screams of anguish as Dementor after Dementor swooped down and fed on his happy memories. He was in so much agony that he didn't notice the giant stag racing towards him. The Dementors were so focused on punishing the being that had destroyed their parent, they also didn't notice the Patronus until it was too late. Most of the Dementors were either vaporized instantly or knocked clear out of Earth's orbit by the charging symbol of what was good and worth living for, the opposing forces being so great. The Dementors that remained scattered and fled in terror as fast as they could fly. The doctor fought to remain conscious. He blacked out for a moment and then opened his eyes again. Hermione, Ron, Harry, and Tonks were standing over him when he struggled to stay awake. Hermione looked like she couldn't decide what she was feeling more, anger or relief.
Honestly, Doctor, be brilliant. That was the best advice you could come up with?
She huffed before dropping to her knees to hold his hand. Harry and Ron knelt on the other side of him. The last thing the doctor heard before slipping back into unconsciousness was Ron's voice. You're going to have to try harder than that if you want to get out going to the dance with Hermione, mate, Ron joked.